As Dan mentioned earlier, we are short on a program today. Unless someone wants to come up here and give us 5 minutes about what makes them great.
I think we need to hear from Sergeant Arms.
We need to hear from the Sergeant at Arms.
Really? I think so.
And now wait. I'll just put it out there. It's like extra time for fines and stuff. Are you sure we need to hear from the Sergeant?
I'll put an extra $5 to happy dollars if Dick Calhoun will tell us a story from his past.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Dick, will you entertain us
5 minutes for $5.
from the past, the podium?
That's the problem when a person has a past.
Everyone has a past, but you just have more than most of us.
Well, let's see, what will I talk about? Well, I'm hoping next week I will be able to come. This is sort of a prefatory comment. With my oldest friend in both meanings of the term. We met on a troop transport going west across the Pacific 76 years ago.
Wow.
And he's coming to, we haven't gotten together for about 4 or 5 years. And he's living in Raleigh now. He had been living up in Lake Placid. And when we got over there, we were assigned to the same regiment, the 27th Infantry Regiment of the 25th Division of the 1st Corps, I Corps. So anyway, so in that's the preparatory comment. When we ended up, this was of course during the occupation, Japan. And we got over there in December. And I vividly remember as we pulled into Yokohama, we saw all these Japanese, these former enemies and all this, unloading our stuff from the boat and all this. And we were marched to a train, Japanese train, which the older trains, pre-war trains. The Japanese were very small people. They didn't have, as we use the unhappy term, balloon people at all. They ate little, particularly during the war years, and they were naturally very small to begin with. And so to put 2 big guys like us in a train seat was something. Well, anyway, we got on, we went over on an elevated train through part of Tokyo, part of Yokohama, I'm sorry, out to Zama. Zama, the replacement depot, where we were reassigned. It had been the west point of Japan prior to the war. Not a very impressive place at all. In any case, we were there a couple of nights and we got on a train to go down to where our regiment was near Osaka, at Shinodayama. And we got on the train and I ended up with a guy, a husky guy, and I was sort of husky too back then, and 2 guys opposite us, facing us. And then wouldn't you know, they have a footlocker full of our personal records in it, and they stuck that. We were the ones that got that. So we had no place to put our feet. And we all had these huge boots on, of course. So what in the world? Well, let's put it this way. We did take our boots off. And then our feet, we had to put our feet on the other, between the guys and amidst the guys. Not a very comfortable riding situation. Well, anyway, we were tooling, they told us to pull the window curtains down, which we did because they were still afraid that someone would throw a rock against the window. But may I say that all the time I was there for almost 2 years in Japan during the occupation, I never, only on one occasion did I see anything that could be described as an anti-American act. In any case, finally the morning came and we sort of haltingly pulled up the window shades. We were stopped for something more important going by. We were on assignment. And it was a Christmas card picture. I wish I could convey to you the beauty of it. We were stopped. It was a snow scene in the mountains. There was a pond the other side of the tracks. And there was a village, typical Japanese village with the thick roofs made of rice straw and so forth, you know, very much like the old English style country roofs. And kids were running along under the windows of the train asking for candy and so forth, or whatever. And so we took all our stuff, threw it out the window, of course. It was a very good beginning. Then we finally ended up in Osaka. We marched out, got on trucks, and went through Osaka, what was left of it. And Osaka was not quite as bad as Hiroshima or Nagasaki, but there was very little standing. And of course, the problem in the Japanese cities during the war was the fact that most of the cities, all of the cities were built mostly of wood. And they had these firestorms so bad that even people in subways died from suffocation because the fire drew all the oxygen out of the subways and all that. And vast numbers were killed. More people were killed by the fires in Tokyo than were killed by Hiroshima and Nagasaki together. Anyway, we get to our regiment, which had been Osaka University at one time. And we were assigned to our barracks, which were brand new, had just been built, two-story barracks. And we were told there would be, this was Christmas Eve. We were told there would be chapel services that evening. So my buddy, there were a group of about 4 or 5 of us who'd been on the ship together, and we were still together. So we went to chapel. And it was just a wooden barracks type building, nothing much about it. But there was an old-fashioned pump organ, reed organ for him. But the interesting thing was that there was a group of Japanese girls, high school girls, maybe middle school. There were about 6 of them, led by a Reverend Ichiro Saito. And they sang Christmas carols in English and in Japanese to us. And a relationship had been sort of established between the chaplain. He was a Southern Baptist, Carl Mabra, a very stolid, unemotional kind of guy. But this relationship had been established with this church, this Christian church. And a couple of months later, a group of us from the chapel, including this friend of mine who will be here, I hope, this coming week, and I and 2 others were invited to the ceremonies for the celebration of the installation of the new Japanese Constitution, which of course had been written by MacArthur's staff, not by the Japanese themselves at all. And that Constitution is still in place. In any case, 4 of us were welcomed in, and we were on a dais with the congregation out that way. It was not a church building. It had been a police station before the war, and the church had been destroyed, and so the government gave the church this building. Anyway, we were on a dais, and they sat us on these chairs, which were kindergarten-sized chairs. And so we're sitting like with our knees up like this, and we were all asked to make some comment in English with someone translating, with Saito translating. And so we all did. And I, in retrospect, remember so vividly, but I greatly confused language from the Gettysburg Address and the Declaration of Independence. I think I got 4 square in there. Whatever. But fortunately, no one knew enough about American history. Then the speaker of the occasion came in. And he came over, shook hands with us. He spoke English. And then at that point, we left because he was going to be speaking Japanese to the crowd. I didn't realize who he was at that time. Well, if you go down to the Washington National Cathedral and you go over to the the left aisle in the nave. And if you've been to the cathedral, you know there's a wide central aisle, wide central portion with the big columns. Then there's a smaller section to the other side of those columns. And then there's a raised section where you have an aisle that's probably about 2 steps higher than all the rest of the nave. And these are a series of bays with small colored windows. They're beautiful. And as you go from bay to bay, there's an arch, and there's a statue, carved statue above the arch. The last one, before you get up towards the Great Crossing, is of Martin Luther King. On the, with the, standing at the pulpit, which is actually the Canterbury pulpit in that cathedral, because the last sermon Martin Luther King did was at the National Cathedral the Sunday before he was assassinated. Going back a bit on these bays, back towards the main entrance, here above there is a statue of Dr. Kagawa, the great Japanese evangelist. And he is carved in stone up there along with some of the other great saints of the church, the great evangelists of the Christian church. And that was the speaker on that occasion.
Wow.
I did not look around for fines.
Well, I brought my Rotary shoes, so.
I checked this table before, they all had their.
You have lived a rich life, Dick. And thank you for sharing that and the other stories that you have over the years. So.
I thought you can count over that makeup.
Like, how are we gonna check, you know?
So I had some things in my pocket already.
All right, let's do the raffle.
Let's do it.
Happy.
Let's see, we have 20, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, $65 today. That's a good day. Oh, there.
Yeah, we actually have a Carl. You give the money to Carl instead of John.
All right, well, since you did the speaking today, I would like you to do the honors.
What happened if I pick my own ticket?
Oh, that's okay.
That's
That
okay.
just means you better get my lottery ticket afterwards. So draw one.
Do I have to start? Can see the number?
Draw one and set it to the side.
That's your fault.
This is the one that doesn't count.
Yep, set that one to the side and then draw 3 more.
3 more.
Uh-huh. You're gonna get a bunch of goodies.
I've got too many.
That's okay. Now, the very first one, if you want to call that one out.
The very first one, I got this one over here.
Uh-huh.
527872.
Ooh, a late one.
872.
Tom Rust.
Oh,
Alrighty then.
yeah, you have to be sitting there.
That's, he got it. All right, do you want to cut the deck?
No.
No?
You're welcome.
We work together on
I
that.
was gonna say, you must have.
He gets half of it.
All right.
Looks like almost.
Come on, Tom.
We live to play again.
Oh, no.
And then if you want to call out the
Oh,
other
I'm
ones,
sorry.
yeah, tear it up.
Last 3 numbers are 676